I woke up this morning finding that I made $100,000 last night, and I've been on a losing streak in Forex trading, and I pretty much just made back everything on this one trade after like a week long of multiple losing trades. Here in my free Telegram channel, you shouldn't join this free Telegram channel, by the way. Most of you are not even capable of applying it because most people are going to lose money trading anyway. But it's free. There's a link in the description and the pinned comment if you do want to join in the next 5 seconds and just check it out. But I share all my analysis in here. And last night I posted this. I posted this at 8:33 p.m. last night. I put NZDJPY is sexy right now. That's me speaking in whatever it is, Morse code, saying like, hey, this is a trade that's ready to be entered. So why's the reason I entered this trade? If we go to the daily chart, there was a resistance zone right here where price had bounced multiple times pretty consistently in the past, and I entered a sell. That's literally it. This is what the trade looked like whenever I entered. Entered there, I put a stop loss above and a target below at 1-to-1 risk reward ratio. And I risked $100,000 on this. The account was all the way down to about 670,000, or I guess, yeah, 670K. And then this morning I woke up and found that price went to the profit target. So you could barely see the wick right there, but it went to the profit target pretty aggressively last night. Bounced straight into profit, held it all the way to the target. Now the account sits at $770,000. And if you guys have been following my previous videos, I've covered the losing streak we've had. I lost $60,000 on GBP/USD yesterday, and then a bunch of other clusters of losses and break-evens and tiny profits and things like that. So I basically just made back everything. The account P&L here since I started it in October of 2025, we're in May of 2026, about to be June. $350,000 deposit. I've made $600,000 in profit, and after paying the swaps and commissions, I'm left with over doubling the account, $350K to $770,000 in the past few months since I started this account. So it's been pretty good. It was a $100,000 winning trade, and that was the whole analysis right there. It was just a sell at resistance, and you can see it's already back up into the zone. But this started moving into profit pretty quickly last night. One of the reasons I love trading support resistance is because if the trade is going to work and if it's going to bounce at the zone that you've entered at, generally it's going to do it pretty quickly. So you're going to get in, it's going to bounce, it's going to go straight to the profit target. And another reason that I like daily is because since the zones are so clearly defined, if you wait for the zones like that, you can enter right there inside the zone. So where did I enter yesterday? Somewhere around here. And you can put a stop loss just on the other side of the zone. And then you set a profit target at 1-to-1 risk reward ratio. So my trade was basically something almost identical to this last night. And then if you're right, it'll go to the profit target. And since I'm using 1-to-1 risk reward ratios and just risking a large dollar amount per trade, it means that when price does move into profit, I'm able to get out of that trade in profit relatively quickly, right? I'm not trying to be a hero and catch the next, whatever this 200, 300, 500, 1,000 pip move. I'm just catching the relatively small, relatively predictable moves. It's Forex trading, so you can't predict what's going to happen, of course, but I'm saying you're more likely to have a profit target hit if it's closer as compared to profit targets that are really, really, really far away. And that could even still work, honestly. But you're just going to run into huge losing streaks over and over and over again, and you have to risk small dollar amounts per trade. And when you finally get a big winning trade, you then have to decide whether or not you're going to close it or where you're going to close it at, or you're going to move the stop loss up and just chase it with like a trailing stop loss. It becomes a lot of things. I just find it so much easier. And in my past like 10 years of trading and the past 8 years of having taught like 4,700 paid clients, I've just found out the best way to do it is just to like set closer profit targets at 1-to-1 risk reward ratio. It just works so much easier. Just me personally, but you do whatever the hell you want to do. I'm not your dad, so I mean, you can still call me daddy though if you want, but you do whatever you want to do. So as far as what I'm looking for today, one of the trading setups is already set up and it's already starting to bounce. AUD/USD. I got my alert on this last night, I believe. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Yep, no, I got it last night right here. So triggered at what, 22:33? So this was what, 10 p.m. last night or something? I don't know. Maybe I'm messing up the time conversions here, but we'll go to the minute 15 and yeah, it looks like it did set up last night. Came all the way here into the zone. I could have bought right there, stop below, target above, and it'd be well on its way to the profit target. However, what was I doing at that time when this set up last night? I was sleeping because I'm a human and I need sleep. Otherwise, I get kind of cranky the next day and I don't focus as well and I can't make these videos and trade profitably and run my business and be a good husband and a dad to my dog. She calls me daddy. If I don't sleep. So I was sleeping and I didn't take this trade. So that's why I missed this trade. But you know what? If it comes back into this zone, I'll probably just re-enter. Let me set an alert right here at the support zone. I do think this would present a pretty good trading opportunity. She has had some struggles raking those recent highs right there. So that's just been what she's been doing here for the past maybe week or so. 18th of May to 28th of May. So for the past week and a half, she's had trouble getting above this region here. But it doesn't make it a bad trade. It just means we need to be cognizant of that if we're setting profit targets. It'd probably be best if they weren't past that area. So how could the trade look? Well, let's go ahead and just kind of plan it out here. Long position here at the zone. And maybe, you wait till after it bounces. So maybe your entry is actually a little bit higher, right? It goes and then it starts to bounce up. So maybe your entry is up here. Stop loss below the zone and all the recent lows. We don't want to put it like that, right? Because your price can pin past the zone really quickly and stop you out. But we also don't need to put it like this, right? 300 pips away. It just needs to go below the zone far enough to where if it goes all the way there, you are pretty sure it's just no longer going to work. So that's there. Now let's see what the profit target would be. So 1-to-1 risk reward ratio is right here, but that would be above that little resistance zone there. So what do we have to do? Well, in this case, let's drag the profit target to right here at the resistance. And that means the stop loss needs to get tightened up as well, just a little bit, so we can get a 1-to-1 risk reward ratio. So the trade would look basically something like this. And guess what? It's even easier if you're able to somehow get an entry deeper into the zone like that, because now the same distance in terms of pips for the stop loss, but now your profit target gets to be closer before this resistance zone. So ideally something like this would be really, really optimal and viable from a risk perspective. Support resistance is not a great way of predicting price, but it's a great way of controlling and structuring risk. It's a way of saying when price gets to this arbitrary region you've drawn on the chart with this little box or a little line for the support resistance zone, it gives you a place to enter. It gives you a place to set your stop loss below the support or above the resistance, respectively. And then you just drag your profit target to a 1-to-1 risk reward ratio, and then you risk whatever you want to risk on that trade. Could be $10, could be $100, could be $1,000, could be, in my case last night, I risked $100,000 on NZDJPY. Keep in mind, it's a small percentage of my trading capital. I've made millions of dollars in Forex and crypto and stocks over the past decade, and my capital allocated to Forex trading is I don't want to say, it's too much, but I only put 350K into an account. That way, if I blow that account for some reason, I still got plenty of capital to trade with. So for me, risking 100K on this trade, it's not 0.01% of my trading capital, but it's not it's 10, 20% of my trading capital either. Everything's structured, everything's reflecting my risk tolerance, and you need to make sure that whenever you're placing trades, that it reflects your risk tolerance. And then you do that by figuring out what you want to risk, using a position size calculator or the MetaTrader 5 app to just drag your stop loss and see how much it's risking at that point. And then you can adjust your lot size to then use one that would reflect that risk for the trade. And then if it goes into drawdown, just try to get out a little early. And if it goes into profit, try to close it in profit. GBP USD was a trade. This is the one from yesterday that I lost. So GBP USD was kind of funny. My original trade was I sold here at this resistance zone, put a stop above, target below. It went against me, so I closed it in loss. Okay, that was the first one. I already covered this one. So I closed it in loss as it went against me. Well, it came back into this zone, and so I thought, all right, it's going to be turning into support now. I'm probably bouncing, so I entered a buy right there. I put a stop loss down here, and I put a target at 1-to-1 risk reward ratio. So then what happened last night is price started breaking and going against me. And where did I close this trade last night? Let's go actually look at my exact trades here. Let's see. I'm exiting GBP USD here. So 8 p.m. I exited GBP USD, and it was right at that price, whatever that is, 1.3411. So 1.3411 is right here. So right at this region here. So that would have hit the stop loss had I not exited there, right? So instead of me losing the full, this would have hit the stop. Look at where the stop was. 1.3383. 1.3383 was up here. So that would have been where the stop was. Target would have been 1-to-1 risk reward ratio. So what would have happened had I not chosen to exit right here, which was about halfway, let's say 60% of the way to the stop loss, so roughly half of what I was risking, this would have continued anyway to the stop. In my experience, that's what happens a little more than half the time if a trade starts to lose and it doesn't start working out very easily, right? If it starts going sideways or if it starts kind of breaking against me and cracking the recent lows and breaking the major support level, usually what ends up happening is it continues to the stop loss. So I've just learned if it starts going into drawdown on a trade like this, when it's structured based off support resistance, I try to just get the hell out of the trade a little bit early if it's going against me. And then since I'm risking 1-to-1, but I'm closing losses early most of the time, and then I'm holding winners to the profit target most of the time, it just dictates that mathematically I make a little bit more when I happen to be right versus what I lose when I happen to be wrong. And that is the only reason I'm profitable. I kind of suck as a trader, to be honest. I don't know which way price is going to go. I'm not right any more than half the time. But the half the time I am right, I make a little bit more. And the other half the time when I'm wrong, I lose a little bit less relative to what I'm making on average when I'm right. So with that being said, I closed that there. And then now it looks like it's just coming back up to retest this zone, potentially as resistance, and we might bounce there. Am I going to be looking to take a trade here? I don't really know. I might reevaluate this. It's Thursday today, so maybe tomorrow or next week. This kind of seems like something I should probably just leave alone for now due to the fact that this zone is getting kind of sloppy here. We could still bounce there at that resistance zone. I can still see that happening. I just think there's better trading opportunities that are presenting themselves at the moment, so I think I'm just going to be leaving this alone. I will go ahead and just remove this zone and then press the little delete button here and maybe reevaluate this next week. GBP JPY. I shared this as well on the free Telegram channel last night, and this was right here. You can see this analysis here. I said GBP JPY is sexy now. So she was good for sells. Now, why did I not take a sell on GBP JPY? A very simple rule. Currency, how do you say this? Like correlated currency exposure, I guess is what we'll call it. What the hell does that mean? It just means if I'm already in a JPY trade, which I was already in NZD JPY, a GBP JPY also is a JPY trade, right? They both have JPY as the quote currency, right? So they have the base currency, the quote currency, and JPY is in the second position there. So NZD JPY and GBP JPY, they're very correlated, meaning if one of them goes up, the other one's likely to go up. And this works with all the other JPY pairs as too, generally speaking. So if I would have entered a sell on both of those and one of them started going up, it's very likely that both of them would be going up and I would have got the stop loss hit on 2 trades at full risk. So I might have lost like $200,000 instead of $100,000 if I got into both of them at the full risk, not to mention chewing up even more of the margin on my account and using up more of the leverage. So what I do is whenever I have correlated opportunities that present themselves, say like Euro USD and AUD USD, they're both good for buys at the same time, right? I just pick whichever one I like the best and I only take one of those trading opportunities. And if I do take both, generally I will like lower my risk on each of them. So instead of risking 100K on each like I would normally do, I might risk only 50K on each. So that way if they both lose, then I still lose about 1 unit of what my average risk is, which my unit of risk varies. It goes between 50 to 75K to 100K. It just depends on the quality of the trading opportunity based on my experience doing this over a decade. And so what I'll do whenever these two things are correlated, I will just pick whichever one is best. I thought NZD JPY looked a little bit better just because we were nice and deep here into the zone at the make it or break it point. GBP JPY had already kind of started breaking out of the zone just barely. It doesn't mean this is a bad trade to take. It just means that the risk structure is a little bit less optimal because the stop still has to go above the zone. The target still has to go at 1-to-1 risk reward ratio, and it just would have been a little bit more of a pain in the ass. NZD JPY visually on the chart and technically just set up with a little bit better and more viable of a way to control risk. The entry is right there at the zone. Stop loss goes just above, target at 1-to-1, and that ended up resulting in a nice little profit. You know, I'm not going to win every time, but when I do, I generally make a little bit more when I'm right versus what I lose when I'm wrong. So GBP JPY was a pretty good setup. It looks like it's already fallen to profit. So anybody who would have gotten into sells perhaps up here with a stop loss just above the zone and target at 1-to-1 probably would have already gotten their targets hit. So yeah, GBP JPY. GBP USD, again, I said I saw nothing. GBP CAD, I remain waiting for this resistance zone to sell up there. Euro GBP, I'm very sad I missed this one. My alert, this was my original alert down there, and price barely missed the alert by like, I think like 3 pips or something. Very unfortunate. This would have been a nice winning trade. I would have made 100 grand on this, but you know, it's okay. The Forex trading is not Pokemon. You're not going to catch them all. We don't have our Charizards and Pikachus out here where we can just throw our Pokeballs at the support zones and expect to catch a nice little win. Sometimes shit like this happens where, you know, you were going to enter it and it, you know, you had it all drawn up, but it didn't set up exactly how you wanted it, and it reversed just before the zone, and then you end up missing it. So for example, this was another one here. I was waiting on this setup like earlier this month to get into this resistance zone, and it barely missed it, right? If it would have come up into here, I would have sold. That would have been a nice winning trade, but it didn't. It reversed before that. This right here, I mean, it did get into the zone technically, but it didn't get all the way to where my alert was, where I wanted to buy. Right here, where it's the lowest risk at these extreme lows. It bounced along where these previous lows were, a little bit higher up into the zone. It was just a technicality thing. I barely missed it, and then it started going up. And that's okay, as long as you're structuring risk, right? Better to keep your money in your pocket than to take an additional risk that's really not necessary, especially given the fact that you can just wait for a better trading opportunity and risk a lot on that. Then you have trades that have shorter time duration, and they're generally going to be more profitable. So I missed this one, and I'm kind of sad about it, but it is what it is. Life goes on. CHF JPY, this is another similar issue. I had my alert. You can see it's here at this resistance zone. I was going to sell up here this week. It almost got there. I really thought it was. I was prepared to take this trade. I was sharing it in my private Discord where I was going to take this trade. Further up, I posted a little screenshot showing exactly what I was going to do. Posted it in Telegram. I think I made YouTube videos here on my channel talking about it like 2 or 3 times. This didn't set up. It almost got there into the resistance zone, but it barely missed it. And then now the past few days, we've ended up falling. So the move's complete. Would I still sell if we get up to here? Yes, I would. So if price comes up to here, does something like this, say it continues the uptrend and goes into this resistance, I'll sell looking to get a little bounce like that, right? And that would make perfect sense. Even if it remains in an uptrend, it'll probably still have a nice little bounce like that. You know, probably meaning like 50% chance, which is, I don't even know if you can say that that's a probable thing, but what I am saying is from a risk structure perspective, it's perfectly viable to sell here, stop above the zone and above this little recent high, and then put a target at 1-to-1 risk reward ratio. Very simple. That's something I'm still looking to trade. AED JPY, I'm waiting to sell at this resistance zone. Pretty straightforward. Euro JPY, we're kind of far away, but I'm looking to sell at this resistance zone. You can see I've got my alert there. Euro AUD, I was wanting to buy this once it came back down here into the zone, but it didn't. It didn't come here this week. It reversed up here. Now we're going up, it looks like. So we'll see what happens, but I would be prepared to buy this if Euro AUD got there into that little support zone. GBP AUD, if price gets up here into this resistance zone, I'll be looking to sell. USD Canadian dollar, if we get up here into this resistance zone, I'm looking to sell. They're just major resistance zones in the daily chart. AUD Canadian dollar, I see nothing. CAD JPY, nothing. Euro USD, nothing. USD CHF, nothing. USD JPY, nothing. Euro Canadian dollar, nothing. GBP NZD dollar, GBP NZD, nothing. NZD USD, nothing. So that's all my analysis for Forex. So this is a breakdown of my trade on NZD JPY that resulted in profit. This is the planning of this AUD USD trade, which I missed last night because I was asleep, and then a little breakdown of the other trading opportunities throughout this week, as well as potential trades for the rest of today and tomorrow, Friday, going into next week. I hope this video was useful for you, and if it was, and if you decided to hit the like button, then that is so cool. That is really nice of you to do that. That's just so, I feel warm inside right now. I feel warm and fuzzy inside. And if you're not in my free Telegram channel, you know, don't join. It's cool. You don't have to. You don't have to follow my analysis live. You don't have to follow all my trade recaps and breakdowns. You don't have to learn the way that I trade. You can go learn something more complicated if you like. But if you do feel the desire to join my free Telegram channel, like 50,000 other people have joined over the past 8 years that I've been running it, the link is in the description in the pinned comment. I love you all. I love trading. I love running my business. And I love making these videos. So I will see you guys in the next video. And I hope you have a great rest of the day. Happy trading, my friends.